What's up, horror fans? Pete here from the Lassercast. For me and my friend Danny over there, discuss horror movies and streaming shows. It is that time of the year for us, right before February, or sometimes in the middle of February. We do our best of for the previous year. So you got two tens right now talking to you, and we're about to give you our tens, our top 10 lists for the horror movies of 2025. And Danny is saying that we might be able to do this in an hour. I kind of don't think we're going to be able to.
We'll
Mr.
see.
Torkel, how'd you feel about 2025 in general?
So that's a great question because my original thought when I started compiling my list, and this was the list of all of the horror movies that I saw in 2025. It was upside down. There you go. It came out to 34 horror movies that I saw in the theaters and another 32 that I watched at home.
Wow.
I feel like last year, more than any year, I have found as much as we could shit on the theater experience, I feel differently about horror about movies in general when I see them in the movie theater compared to when I watch them at home. It could
Sure.
be a great movie, great horror movie. I am incapable of watching a movie straight through at home. I just
Sure.
am. I'm an absolute ADD maniac, slave to my phone. I have three cats. I have a wife. I have a kid who lives at home. Sometimes I have multiple kids that are at home. I cook. I do the laundry. It's just there's always something to keep me from just watching a 100-minute movie in
Yeah.
100 minutes. But when I walk into a movie theater, the phone goes off, the movie turns on. There's like I hold it in because I can't press pause, and that's it. And I I feel like as I'm looking at what, so I started compiling my list, and I noticed it was like 15 movies, 19 movies, and then I was like, come on, this is ridiculous. And
Right.
then I really had to break it down, and I had to say to myself, what are the movies that I actually think I'm going to watch again? What are the movies that I enjoyed to a point that I'm going to be like, hey, Shar, you should watch this movie with me?
Right.
In some cases, I've already done that. But that led to me actually removing some of the movies that I liked that I
Okay.
just feel like, yeah, that was a good one-time watch. That was a really good movie. I'll never watch it again.
Right.
And when I look at my list, I think every movie, with the exception of one, I saw in the movie theater.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
there are going to be a lot of Shutter exclusives. There's going to be a lot of movies that made it to VOD that I enjoyed a lot, but I
Yeah.
didn't put on my list because I didn't see them in theaters
Sure.
and they just didn't resonate with me. Also, I have what is most likely a movie very high on your list is a glaring omission on mine. And I think you might know what that is from some of our communication with Chris and Brian and everybody. But if not, you'll see it. You asked
Okay.
me. Let, let, we're already 4 minutes in. We're definitely gonna have to do this in two videos. Uh, you asked me what I thought about 2025 in general, and I
Yes.
gotta be honest. The more I've thought about it, I think it might be a weak year for horror.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because my number one,
Yeah.
and my number one is not going to shock anybody.
Okay.
But it's like I have my number one, which has been my number one movie since February, and then there is a chasm between number one and two. It's not like it's a top four and then a big gap. No, it's number one, and then numbers 2 through 10 are kind of like this.
Yeah.
but it's and whenever I feel that way about a movie, about a year, I feel
Yeah.
like it's very. I just also feel like this was a year where there was a lot of the movies on my list. Some of them don't feel very horror like. They feel like they're the types of movies that other people would say that's not really a horror movie. That's kind
Yeah.
of a science fiction action thriller,
Whoa.
and
Yeah, the list
uh,
and everything.
and so I don't know. I listen. I'm very happy the Oscar nominations came out. Horror did incredibly well. Sinners, Frankenstein, Weapons.
Yeah.
Many movies got tons of nominations. So I'm very happy, and I'm happy with the state of horror as it's in. I've said to you on this channel, I think
Yeah.
2026 is off to an amazing start.
Yeah.
The last video we posted was 28 years later, The Bone Temple, which we both absolutely loved.
Correct.
So I think we're off to a great start,
Yeah.
and uh, and I thought 2025 was a good year, but I don't know if I would say it was a great year for horror. I
Sure.
think I think that it will be reflected historically as a great year because of the Oscar nominations, though.
Right. 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 Yeah. Really excellent points there, man. For 2025, I always find this really, really interesting. It's always like a movie takes potentially years to develop, right? So it's not like people come up with an idea, 3 months later, there's the completed movie. That's kind of how it works with comic books. But with movies, we're talking years. So I'm always wondering what was going on 2 years prior to this when this movie was being conceived, right? And I feel like we are now right into the middle of this administration. Like at the time of this recording, sorry to get all political and stuff on y'all, but I'm kind of stuck in my apartment right now. It is frozen outside in Texas. There's been like nightmarish stuff on the news right now. Like stuff where you're like, oh, okay, so the worst fears that we had, that is happening now. Okay, cool. Um, and I know that kind of environment breeds the best kind of entertainment, the best kind of literature, the best kind of film. Like our fears breed that. And I'm just trying to think of like 2 years ago, where were we? And is there any kind of common theme between the 10 that I picked? I look at my list and I do not see common themes. One thing I do see that's interesting, Danny, is that for the first year since we've been doing this since 2020. The first year, I think I only have two foreign films, and I think that one of them, it's kind of you feel weird saying it's foreign because like British cinema seems like it's almost like American cinema, like they're almost interchangeable. But yeah, I think I have two foreign films on here where usually our like number one is usually a foreign film. And to that, Danny, I feel like that might have something to do with like tariffs and exports and stuff, and like maybe we're not getting as much foreign film. But I feel like usually you are telling me, "Oh man, did you see this thing from like fucking Taiwan, or did you see this thing?"
Yeah,
And I feel like that was the thing that's missing this year.
yeah. Spoiler alert: I don't have a single. Well, let me rephrase that. I don't have any non-English speaking films in my
Yeah,
top 10.
yeah,
There were a couple movies, namely The Ugly Stepsister, Grafted, which are both available on Shutter, that were very, very high on my list. I told you when I started putting this, I ended up with like 15 to 18 movies on my top 10, and I was like, oh, I can't do that. And they actually they're both in like my very short list of honorable mentions. Um, but yeah, the closest to a foreign film I have, I think, is an Australian-made movie,
okay, okay.
which,
I
from your smiles, I think is on your list too.
Okay, but you actually just reminded me that I actually do have three foreign-made films in on my list then. But why don't we skip the foreplay right now? We're already 9 minutes into it. Let's start getting into our list. For you guys who are joining us for the very first time, the way this works is we just go back and forth. Danny says his number 10, I say my number 10. He's gonna probably say his honorable mentions. Do you want to like put your honorable mentions a little further into the recording so we could just like get to number 10 right now?
Sure.
Okay, so before you do that though, I was gonna say that what'll happen, guys, is a lot of times Danny might say something and it's like higher on my list, or I might say something it's higher on his. So whoever brings it up, that's when we talk about that movie. So you want to give us your number 10?
My number 10 is the only movie on my list that I did not see in theaters. And it is streaming now on Shutter, and it's Influencers, which
Oh,
is the sequel to Influencer, starring Cassandra Naud. And I really loved the first movie, like kind of came out of nowhere. And I think I like the second one even more. It was so much fun. It kind of plays with time a little bit because the first movie ends in a specific way, and the second movie starts, and you're like, wait, how the hell did we get here? And then the movie kind of jumps around time wise to show you how we got to where we are, and uh and very similar to the first movie, you don't get like opening credits until 30 minutes into the movie. It is just the way, I think the director's name is Curtis David Harder or something of to that effect, and the way he paces these movies and the way he kind of like flies in the face of convention with his like setups for them, I think are so cool and very revolutionary. I was so excited when this came out because I, like I said, I love the first one. This screened at the Brooklyn Horror Film Festival. Unfortunately, it was in the middle of a day where I was working, and I couldn't make it there on time for this screening.
sure.
Uh, but I caught it on Shutter. I really liked it, and I wanted to include this in my top 10 because I think they are building a really kind of cool trilogy, like a completely new story, 21st century style story with the whole influencer, social media, AI parts to it, uh,
Oh,
but also, but also kind of making it a kind of really cool retro slasher vibe. Um, so yeah, I was just a huge fan of this one. I liked it better than the first, and I really liked the first one.
okay. So unfortunately, I did not see this movie, and I actually really liked the first one too. I had just a spoiler or disclaimer or whatever to the people watching, but like 2025 was kind of a rough year for me. A lot of major changes in my life, and I found myself not having a lot of free time. I barely watched enough movies to make a top 10 list for myself, and that was a lot of like squeezing it in at the last moment here. So I didn't see this, but I wanted to. So I can't really offer anything good, but I'll go check this out. I do have Shutter, you know. Um, what do you call it? You want me to transition to my number 10?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So here we go. We're gonna have our first controversial one because I bet you this isn't even in your top 15 for the year. The director of this film, I think that you kind of have a bad taste in your mouth about this guy because of the hype that surrounds his films and then
Uh,
the actual films that come out. So yeah, Osgood Perkins. That's who we're talking about here. I don't have Keeper on my list at all. I think that might have made you a little nervous there. But I do have for number 10, The Monkey. So I'm wondering, Danny, is that even on your 15?
no, and I gotta be honest, I don't. That movie came out very at the very beginning of 2025.
Right.
I don't remember a thing about it. the the only things I remember about this movie are the things that were in the trailer, like the swimming pool scene. That's it. I don't remember anything else. And it's streaming on like I think it's Hulu. And I've
Yeah.
tried to get Charlotte to watch it, but she's involved in Sing at her school, and that like is basically a full-time job for her as a high school
Right.
student
Yeah.
uh
Yeah.
who wants to do like performing arts. So we haven't really watched a lot of movies lately, and so yeah, I remember seeing it in a movie theater, walking out, going, yeah, that was fun, and then I instantly forgot everything about the movie. So why did you put it on your list?
Well, okay, so that's kind of an issue that I actually have had with a few horror movies this year, where they don't necessarily leave lasting impressions. They're enjoyable. They're one of the main things when I go to watch a horror movie is I'm like, oh, is this going to be bad? Am I going to have that kind of cringy feeling of like, ugh? And everything on my list does not give me that feeling. Uh, I think the reason why I like this movie is because of how absurd it is, and then like the killings, the way that people die in this movie, it's like so over the top and ridiculous that it's entertaining. Like I think that I like horror comedies. Okay, I'll just say it. I like really serious, disturbing horror movies, like Speak No Evil, and maybe some of the other things on this list. I like that, and then I like horror comedies. I'm not really a fan of like torture horror movies or like ridiculously gory slasher movies. Like those two other things are my jam. So this fits in my jam. I like Osgood Perkins more than you do. I thought Theo James was great in this. I like seeing Tatiana Maslany. I like Tatiana Maslany way more in this than I did in Keeper. And maybe this might just be because this was my like third favorite Stephen King adaptation out of 6 fucking Stephen King adaptations. I held up 7, but 6 Stephen King adaptations this year. It's like 2 shows, 4 movies, and this one was like my third favorite Stephen King adaptation. So, I don't know. I mean, I could keep it brief, and that could be my 10, and we could go on to 9 if you want, unless you want to say anything more about this movie.
No, go ahead. You so now you do your number 9.
I'll do my number 9. Okay, so this is a movie that I heard about a lot. I was wanting to see it. I just never got around to until last night. But I watched Good Boy, and I kind of considered omitting it and replacing it with The Black Phone 2 because I did actually like The Black Phone 2 way more than the first. But I think the novelty of this movie is what earned it a spot on this list. I like that it is truly like from the dog's perspective. You're not like looking through the dog's eyes. Like it doesn't have that kind of feel, but you really don't see the human characters at all, except for specific moments. Like you always just kind of see their legs. It was a really short, gonna quote pitch meeting here, tight movie where it has this one idea, just sticks to it. And I think that if I'd seen this in the theater, I would have been really creeped out because it's a very dark movie, like dark looking, and there's not a lot of dialogue. So I think that the atmosphere would have been there. I'm very curious if you like this movie or not, Danny.
So this movie and another movie made my honorable mentions list. And I think that they would make a really interesting double feature because of the similarities in that it's a very interesting take on like who you're following as the viewer. And it was Good Boy, and the other movie was Presence, where you are literally you are the ghost, the presence in this haunted house, just observing everything that's going on. And the characters exist, but they exist in front of you as you're watching them. And I really liked both of these movies. I also kind of feel, and you've said this, and I think I said this in my like long-winded intro, is that while I enjoyed them and while I will recommend them, I don't see these as movies I'm going to rewatch. I think they're novel ideas. Like, I feel like in many ways, they are what Skinamarink should have been for me. Where, like, I feel like if Skinamarink had a really good idea, a great idea, it just went on for so long that it wore me down to a point where I was just like, I'm bored out of my fucking mind.
Right.
These two movies were shorter. They had a little more plot around the like cool idea. They both, Good Boy and Presents, both made my honorable mentions list, but they're not. They didn't make my top 10.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, dude, we're fucking flying through this, and we're 20 minutes in here. So I've done my 10 and my 9. I think it's time for your 9. While you
So
tell me what it is, I'm gonna go get some chips because I kind of have a feeling we're gonna be here for a long time.
So my number 9 is, and I don't know if I'm doing a good job of this, but it is weirdly Hard Eyes. Um,
Oh, okay.
Hard Eyes did something this year that I thought was very hard to do. They made a non-IP holiday slasher movie that actually I thought worked super well.
Yeah.
The last original IP like holiday horror movie that I could remember was Eli Roth's Thanksgiving. I've rewatched that recently. It's good. It's a good movie. I think Hard Eyes had a cool killer. Like the killer himself looked cool, had cool weapons. The deaths were bloody and gory. But more importantly, the two leads in the movie were really likable and they had
Yeah.
really good chemistry. And what usually sinks a movie like Hard Eyes is you're rooting for the killer to just kill these annoying fucking people. And I genuinely felt like, wow, I want these two people to get together, defeat the killers, and whether or not they make a part 2 or not, I like these characters and I'm rooting for them in an original holiday slasher movie. I showed it to Charlotte. I saw this at a screening in the city, um all the way up in like Lincoln Center, so it was really cool when it came out. And Charlotte watched it with me. She loved it as well.
Right.
So like this is exactly what I'm talking about. I just said like I really liked Good Boy. I don't feel like I need to rewatch it. I saw Hard Eyes in the theater. My first thought was I would love to show that movie to Charlotte. And when it came on to whatever streaming service it was on, maybe it was Netflix, I'm not sure. Charlotte and I watched it. And it's the type of movie where, hey, Valentine's Day, as we're recording, is 3 weeks away. Um, I am definitely going to be watching My Bloody Valentine for the 100th time. I'm definitely going to be watching Unmasked Part 25 because I'm the only person in the world who knows what that movie is and loves it. But I'm
Yep.
probably also going to watch Hard Eyes because I thought it was a really cool holiday slasher. And I think it's going to be one of those movies that can get annual rewatches. And a movie, if you can make a movie like that in 2025, more power to you. I really enjoyed it. It's number 9 on my list.
Yeah, that was directed by the guy that wrote Scare Me, right? And directed Scare Me.
Yes, Josh Rubin. Yes.
Yeah.
I completely forgot that he did that, which it makes more sense of why I liked it because he's a really good writer, director.
Yeah. I think that it came out like right when I was in the middle of all the stuff I was dealing with, and I started it, and I really liked the intro, and I did like the chemistry between the two main characters, but then I never got around to finishing it. So maybe I can watch it now that we've gone this, gotten through our list this year. But no, I was really digging it. I kind of actually forgot about it. I should have finished it. So then, can we hop over to my number 8?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So my number 8, I feel like maybe this should be higher on the list. This is a movie that reminds me of When Evil Lurks. Like I think it was either last year or 2 years ago. We had a whole bunch of like really difficult movies to watch because there was so many sort of like disturbing things happening in them. We're like, oh, they're not going to do that. Oh God, they're doing it. This movie I feel like is in the same vein as that, and I feel like the stuff that I watched this year was not like When Evil Lurks, was not like Speak No Evil. There wasn't a lot of movies like that this year. So it goes back to my theory of like, well, what was going on 2 years ago? Maybe maybe when they were making these horror movies, they were like, people need some levity. They need something that's not going to just bring them down and destroy them. So maybe that's why there's not a lot of movies like that on my list. With this though, this is just a fucking depressing, disturbing movie. It's made by the people that made Talk to Me. It's the Australian movie Bring Her Back. And I'm guessing, Danny, that it is higher than 8 on your list.
Pete, it's number fucking 8 on my list.
We is did it really?
We is did it?
Nice, nice.
No, yes, this is absolutely amazing, perfect. Yes, it is number 8 on my list. I've been scribbling and like reworking numbers like 5 to 10 from the time we started recording, and I like settled on and I was like, all right, I think I'll leave Bring Her Back at 8. And then when you started talking about it, I was like, I can't fucking believe it ended. Yeah. Charlotte and I saw this. It was a mystery movie Monday at Regal, horror edition, which I love. They've been doing this. There's another one. I think it's February 2nd, a week from tomorrow. They have the next one of those. I've seen some really good stuff with those. I've been lucky with those movies. But yeah, Bring Her Back, man. You talk about scenes that have stayed with me all year. The knife in the mouth scene. That I remember feeling so fucking horrible when, well, I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it, but there's a death towards the end of the movie that I like sat there shocked. I couldn't believe that they actually killed off this character. I genuinely love the bond between the two siblings. Sally Hawkins, you know, in a year where horror got 25 Oscar nominations or 30 Oscar nominations, they could have maybe gone one more and gotten Sally Hawkins an Oscar nomination for Bring Her Back. She was so fucking good in this movie. Just like you said, man, this was probably, along with one other movie on my list, the darkest in terms of like just like the movie ends and there's just not a lot of good feelings to go along. And the Filippo brothers, that seems to be where they're living with horror. Like between this and Talk to Me, it's not exactly, these are not horror movies that make you feel good. Like these are not like you could watch Hard Eyes and walk out and be like, oh my God, all those people got slashed to death, but that was so much fun. I had so much fun in jail. Like those characters, they loved it. This movie, the movie ends and you're just like, whoa, like feel like you got kicked in the gut.
Right, exactly. It's really interesting that because they're like young, they're like YouTubers that have made 2 horror movies now, and it's interesting that like the first movie is kind of fun in parts of it because it's like the idea of like, oh look, this thing, it's like a party trick that we have. You can do like a seance by using this mannequin hand. But then it's also like really disturbing in certain scenes, and overall it's just depressing too. This one is just pretty much depressing throughout. Like they were like, let's go darker. And you know, Danny, I think 2 rules of thumb we should use while we're doing this recording today. Let's not actually spoil the movies. I've noticed that you haven't spoiled anything. And then also, what the fuck else was I going to say? Let's not spoil the movie. No, okay, never mind. That's the one rule of thumb. Let's not spoil the movie. And so, like, I don't want to talk about like that death that you mentioned, but I will say that that's the kind of thing in horror movies. When it happens, it's a different kind of effect. It's something that lingers with you because you're like, oh, I can't believe that happened, and then the way that it happened is just so like cruel. So, I that's the hardest movie on my list to watch out of all my top 10. And then it's like the very next one is a horror comedy, in my opinion. But you know, since I said my number 8, why don't we? And your number 8's the same. Why don't we jump to number 7 for you then?
So my number 7, it's interesting. My numbers 10, 9, and 8 were all Number 10 was a sequel, Influencers, but it's an original concept. Bring Hard Eyes and Bring Her Back, original films. My number 7 is, I think, part 6 in a franchise. It is Final Destination Bloodlines.
Get the fuck out of here.
Is that
You said
yours?
that's your number 7?
Yeah.
That's my number 7.
Holy
You got a
shit.
streak going.
The snow looks so fucking bad right now in New York. Holy shit. Sorry, I just turned around. I was so excited that we had the same 1, 2 in a row. I turned around and you could barely see. I live on the 6th floor of an apartment building. You can barely see the apartments across the street because of the just blinding snow. Anyway, Final Destination Bloodlines. I'll keep this super short. I think we did a review of this on the channel months ago. This movie, I thought, had one of the best opening disaster scenes in a Final Destination movie since, well, this isn't since. I think it's a top 3 opening scene, I think, for me, along with part 2, obviously, the highway, and part 5, the bridge, which I think is an amazing sequence.
Yes.
This is a movie like Hard Eyes that benefited from having genuinely likable characters.
Correct.
The characters that you are used to rooting for to die in horrible ways, especially given it's a Final Destination movie, you're actually rooting for them to survive. Namely, I think Eric, the brother who we find out was actually an illegitimate brother. I don't think that's much of a spoiler. The deaths were, of course, elaborate and awesome. And of course, the Tony Todd scene in this movie is it's one of the greatest scenes I've ever seen, in the idea that you have an actor who knows, he was dying. He knows that this is probably going to be the last thing that he films. And how many times does an actor who's been a successful actor for nearly 40 years, I believe, how many times does he get a chance to basically say goodbye to his fans in the middle of a film and have it make perfect sense within the movie? It like, you don't go to see Final Destination 6 and expect to see like horror fans tearing up in the theater, but there were a lot of people tearing up in my theater. This is another movie that Charlotte and I have watched already multiple times.
Yeah.
It is my probably second favorite in the franchise. It might be my favorite overall movie in the franchise. And it's a really good franchise too. 6 movies, I think 5 of them are at the least good. And I thought this was a great way to kind of bring that franchise back. They're already doing a part 7. I can't wait for that. So yeah, Final Destination 6 was my 7 on my list.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I wish I still had the ability to edit things out of these videos. But I was going to say that, like, for this series, I think I've seen every single movie in this series. And I've enjoyed them all, too. Like, even if I thought they were kind of cheesy, I still enjoyed the kills. And they always had this kind of sick sense of humor. This one almost kind of feels like a legacy sequel because there's been a gap between the last one and this one. But what's cool is the only recurring character is Tony Todd, right? He just sort of makes this cameo appearance in these movies. So it doesn't feel like other legacy sequels that we've gotten where it's like, oh, there's this one surviving member and they're kind of passing the torch on to this new person. Just the new people in general are like enjoyable to watch, just like you just said. The what's compelling about this one is that you're dealing with the idea of it's not just that these people avoided death and so death's coming after them. They've avoided death and then they have their own offspring, and so it's a matter of these people that never should have been born before. And what I like about that is that someone sat there and took the time to be like, how can we make this different? How can we make this more compelling? And I think that like making it to where it affects just a family is a great shift, because usually it's just this group of friends, and a lot of them are really obnoxious that you're waiting for them to die, and you're just kind of waiting for them to get killed off. With this, it's like, oh well, we're in a family, we know the order. There's like a whole nother dynamic to it, and they showed one of the main set pieces like in the trailer. They showed that barbecue sequence, but like I felt like every time there was a set piece, it was exciting, and there was no like throwaway kill in this movie. I thought that every single sequence where someone died was like an entertaining sequence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh shit, man! We did all the way up to 7, and we're like a little over a half hour in. I'm wondering. Oh no, there's no way 6 is going to be the same.
Oh no, absolutely not. 6 is for me. Well, you go first because I cheated, so you go first.
Okay, you cheated. So this one I don't think is on your top 10, but it's 28 years later. So this is yet another foreign film, right? Because it was made in Britain. Danny Boyle, Alex Garland writing it. Now you made a very specific point in our 28 years later, the Bone Temple recording, to say that you didn't want that movie to retroactively influence the way you felt about this movie when it came to this ranking. But I would say that I didn't need the Bone Temple to appreciate this movie. I know that like when we talk about the epilogue with the Jimmies and stuff, that people say that was this crazy absurd ending. That's not going to derail the fact that the scene that ends the story was one of my favorite horror scenes maybe ever. You know, with Ralph Fiennes, who then becomes the main character of Bone Temple. Like that sequence was so well shot and so different from the majority of scenes that we see in the movies that we talk about, that I was like, oh, this is a special movie. This is going to be on my top 10 just for that scene alone with Ralph Fiennes. And little did we know that was like the little precursor to like one of our favorite movies of 2026.
I really liked it overall. I really liked 28 Years Later, but I think I loved parts of it, and then I didn't like parts of it, and I think I didn't I like it's streaming on Netflix, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll rewatch 28 Years Later just so that I can go see Bone Temple again, which I've already seen in theaters twice, and I love it so much. I went to Horror Trivia Wednesday night, and the bar that hosts the trivia is a queer bar in the city called Rock Bar, and one of the team names was Kelson and Samson Forever.
Yeah.
So I appreciated that team name. 28 Years Later was on my like 15-ish.
Oh, okay.
Like, because like you said, I loved the first 30 minutes of that movie. It was a gorgeous movie to watch, cinematography wise. I love the Ralph Fiennes stuff. But then there's that, like, it feels like 30-minute section of the movie from when they get back to their, like, village on the other side of the causeway until Ralph Fiennes enters the film, that the movie just kind of died for me. And it drags a lot. And yeah, that scene that you're describing is gorgeous, but yeah, that ending at the time was a jarring thing. And like we talked about this in our Bone Temple review. and you brought up, I forgot who it was, that like this movie, Bone Temple, was not doing like massive business. And I was talking to somebody in the horror space, and I said, I know a lot of people who walked out of 28 years later and was like, yeah, it was good, but what the fuck was that? And
Right, right.
I genuinely wonder if a lot of those people were like, yeah, I don't want to go see part two because
Yeah.
of that lasting impression from part one. Um, so I couldn't put it in my list, but I feel like once the third part of 28 years later comes out, I'm going to again retroactively reappraise it because it's going to be like the part one of a trilogy that I end up loving.
Right.
Where very similar to like A Quiet Place, where I feel like my there are three A Quiet Place movies, and it's one of the only trilogies that I like in reverse. Part three is my favorite, part two is my second favorite, and part one, the movie that everybody loves, I'm like, it it was okay.
Right.
And I kind of feel like that's how I'm going to be. Although if part three is better than Bone Temple, like shut my mouth. I'll be so happy.
Right.
Uh so okay, so it's my number six, and I told you I cheated, but I have a logic behind my cheat. My
Uh-oh.
logic is um these are the movies that I saw on back-to-back days at the Brooklyn Horror Film Festival
Yeah.
back in October. Uh, and I wanted to include both of these movies on my list,
Uh-oh.
but I didn't have another space between 1 and 10. So I said, well, I saw them both at the Brooklyn Horror Film Festival. Fuck it, I'm going to include both of them. So yes, this is a complete cop out cheat. There's 11 movies in my top 10. My number six are Queens of the Dead and
Okay.
Borman and the Devil. Queens of the Dead was directed by Tina Romero, George Romero's daughter.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
it is a basically just exactly what it sounds like. It is drag queen zombies. It is uh, paying homage to her father, making
Yeah.
a very, loud and proud queer zombie movie. But seeing it in the Brooklyn Horror Film Festival with the festival crowd, it was so much fun. One of the most fun theater experiences I've had this year. And then they did a Q&A with the director and many of the cast, and it was so much. We had a great time. Um, if you guys are watching this, you can scroll back to October on the Lassercast. I have the Q&A recording from Brooklyn Horror Film Festival. Um,
Nice.
and the movie is streaming now on Shudder. It's just so much ridiculous fun. The other movie is streaming on Mubi, Mubi.
Yes.
That is the service that had The Substance last year, so they're kind of getting into horror stuff pretty cool. Borman and the Devil was is a documentary about legendary director John Borman
Yes.
and the epic flop that was The Exorcist Part 2.
Oh, okay.
And what made this documentary amazing was that it actually made me want to non-ironically rewatch Exorcist 2 and reevaluate Exorcist 2.
Damn,
Uh,
okay.
and it also, and this is for me, and this is why, like we love the In Search of Darkness movies,
Right.
a documentary that makes you want to watch other movies is to me is the a documentary about movies that makes you want to watch more movies
Yeah.
is for me the crowning achievement of what a documentary about movies or filmmakers can do. And this movie really made me want to go through John Borman's other filmography. including like fucking epic stuff like Excalibur, which I remember watching when I was way too young. The Deer Hunter, not the Deer Hunter. That's the wrong movie. Deliverance. That's the movie with the D that I was thinking. Deliverance, which again, my dad was like, "Oh, you're 12. You could watch Deliverance, no problem." So like these are movies that I haven't seen in decades that I made me want to revisit those movies,
Yeah.
as well as see other of his films, and also rewatch Exorcist 2, not to like laugh at it for being a bad movie, but to like see like what was he trying for here? Could this have been? Am, are we all judging this wrongly? Spoiler
Yeah.
alert: no, we're not. Exorcist 2: The Heretic is a bad movie. It is a
Right.
historically bad movie, but
Right.
it's like it was a bad movie made by a great director who tried different things and was meddled with. If you've seen The Exorcist 2, if you know of Borman's work, or if you've even heard his name and you're like, oh, what other movies has he made? I cannot, this was my favorite documentary of the year. Um, Again, if you go back to October on the Lastercast, I have a Q&A up with the director that I recorded at the Brooklyn Horror Film Festival. It's one of my favorite things about going to, whether it's the IFC Center in Manhattan or whether it's going to these film festivals, is not just seeing the movies, but like getting to hear from the directors, hear from the cast members, the Q and A's, the interactions. It's all great stuff. I highly recommend getting to film festivals if you haven't ever gone to one.
All right, well, I'm just lame as fuck because I haven't seen either of these movies, but you 1000% sold me on Borman and the Devil because for the very first time in my life, I'm 43 years old, I just realized that the man that made Excalibur made The Exorcist 2. I didn't even realize that. So now that makes me want to go watch that fucking documentary and maybe rewatch Exorcist 2. I only saw Exorcist 2 like once, and I think it was on like Channel 11 late at night on a Saturday, and I was just watching it when I was like, I don't know, teenager. But yeah, now I want to fucking check it out. Danny, I'm looking at the time. It's 47 minutes in. If we do your honorable mentions now and we make it like an hour, then we can make it that like video 1 is numbers 10 through 6, and then video 2 is 5 through 1. You want to do that?
Yeah, my honorable mentions aren't even going to take that long, but yeah, let's do that. I already mentioned Presence and Good Boy. I thought they were super original in the style of which they were done. The point of view of like a ghost in the house, the point of view of the dog. Um, I am a sucker for found footage style movies, and there were a whole bunch of those that came out this year. Shelby Oaks by Chris Stuckman, uh, Dream Eater, which was a movie Chris recommended to me. My favorite of those movies was a movie called Strange Harvest, which I think is now on Hulu. Uh,
Oh, okay.
that was probably number 11 or 12 on my top 10 list, even though I just admitted that I have 11 movies in my top 10. Probably the movie that's going to shock you the most that it's not in my top 10, I think, is Companion. Again,
Oh,
it was like, again, it was right there. I think I went Hard Eyes over Companion because I'm more likely to watch Hard Eyes literally once a year for the rest of my life, every Valentine's Day season. Whereas I don't know when I'm going to rewatch Companion, but I love Sophie Thatcher, love Jack Quaid, thought it was so much fun and weirdly relevant to the time. Uh, on Shutter, foreign film. Again, The Ugly Stepsister. If don't watch it if you've eaten. It is disgusting. It's got some amazing body horror. It's basically body horror Cinderella. What if Cronenberg directed Cinderella? Uh, Really great stuff. Just missed my list. Nominated for a couple Oscars, I think. I think like hair and makeup. So good for that movie. And then really, I only have two more. Another Brooklyn Horror Film Festival movie that I really enjoyed that just missed my list was Dust Bunny, starring Mads Mikkelsen. directed by Brian Fuller. A really kind of dark fairy tale kind of movie. Really interesting. And I really wanted to put this on my list, but I just couldn't find a place for it. But spoiler alert for what's in my top 5. This was an amazing year for remaking or reimagining 1984 cult horror films. And The Toxic Avenger is an honorable mention for me. This is streaming on Screambox. It is so much fun. And if you know, and if you have recently rewatched the ridiculous 1984 Trauma original, it makes the new one so much better because they put so many Easter eggs and so many references without it like overwhelming the movie. Peter Dinklage is a ton of fun. The cast is they're just chewing all the scenery. Like Kevin Bacon, Elijah Wood looks like the worst version of the Penguin you've ever seen. It is so much fun. It didn't make my list. It is an honorable mention, but there is another 1984 remake or reimagining that is coming up very soon in our 5 through 1 countdown.
Okay, all right. Well, I guess it's kind of I don't know if it's a good sign or not, but Danny just knocked out 2 of my top 5 in his honorable mentions. Ooh. So you guys are going to have to stick around and see what is in my top 5 and what is in Danny's top 5. But hey, man, we got you guys all the way up to 6. And from what I've heard, 6 is pretty good. So check out our next video, which will come out probably the next day after this top 10 through 6 comes out. All right, guys. So we will see you. Like and subscribe, and